Okay, so average rate of change of f of x with respect to x on the interval and I'm going to write the interval this way. You know, this is just another standard interval notation that you should be familiar with, but it's easy enough to understand. We just put the left side of the interval here, the right side of the interval here, right? Okay? So it's like instead of a and b here, you got x and x plus h. And we kind of think of h as a small number, but it doesn't have to be a small number. Usually when we put it in this context, we think of h as a small number. Say, well, what would it be?
Okay, so
X plus H minus X.
Yeah. A would be replaced by just x, right? So that'd be the slope of the fundamental triangle for the point x, f of x, and x plus h, f of x plus h. Because now you don't have a and b, you've got x and x plus h. Okay?
and usually you give the value of h.
Yeah, well, this can represent any function. Now, if I give you a function like x squared, then you could write it out for x squared.
Plus h.
Then maybe we'll do that, and maybe we won't. Okay? It just depends on time. Okay? But we could, right? Whether we end up doing it or not. And of course, we're going to do it later. Okay, but we don't really have to do it right now because you're not going to be asked that right now. Still, you get to see where this is going, so it might not be a bad idea. Okay, anyhow, so, well, what's that? Well, we can draw the triangle. So now we have x, f of x, and
x plus h.
x plus h, f of x plus h. Right? Okay? Now am I getting that? Let's see. Make sure the camera's getting the whole thing. I can't see. Silly screen has all kinds of stuff written on it. So I can't really see if I'm getting this, but I'm pretty sure I am. Okay. Nice straight line. Okay? Fundamental triangle. And of course, this corresponds to an interval down here from x to x plus h on the x-axis, right? So what's the run?
The run will be x plus h minus x.
Yeah. Does that simplify?
Is it simplified?
Yeah, can you simplify x plus h minus x?
Yeah. It will be plus h.
Yeah, just h. So the run is just h. Okay? The rise is f of x plus h minus f of x, right? Now, you've seen questions where I give you a function, not even necessarily one of the basic functions, and ask you to write out what f of x plus h minus f of x is, right? The same question where I ask you to do f of aardvark, right? And you're doing that. Most people are doing that quite well, okay? So, you've seen this expression, and you've seen it for specific functions, so you know how to evaluate it, okay? And here's what it means, okay? Now the slope, well, what's the slope then?
run?
Yep.
So it'd be
Okay? Well, there's the rise, it's f of x plus h minus f of x divided by the run, which is
H.
h. That's your slope. That's your average rate of change, right? Okay? Now, big deal, there's another word for what that is. That's the difference quotient.
Oh, I get it.
Okay?
I get it. Difference quotient.
That's what we mean by the difference quotient. So now if you look at that third to the last problem on the assignment I'm going to give you Thursday, you know how to do it. That's the difference quotient. Okay? And you're going to see that in your textbook. I'm not sure if you're going to see it in the first chapter or not. I mean, you'll see it. I'm not sure if it'll be called that in the first chapter. It might be. But eventually, that's what it is going to be called. And I think in the section on rate of change, that's where they introduce the concept. And I forget which section, section 4, something like that, in the first chapter. Okay? So, see, you asked a good question. We got to do things for, about 15 minutes, and hopefully you got a little bit of insight out of it.
Yeah, I understand, completely understand that. And I always been looking at it as though it was the slope of a triangle, but the interval part, like the symbols, that's what confused me. So I was like, intervals, like.
Well,
I didn't
making the transition to symbols is a big deal. And it takes a little time. We're doing real well with it. Okay? At least from everything I've seen, people who are working at it are doing adequate to very good job with it. Okay? And it's something you got to keep developing.
Yeah.
Okay? You got to learn how to look at the symbols. But when you know how to look at the symbols, then you know a little bit more, quite a bit more about what's going on.
Okay, so one more question.
Yeah.
This don't have nothing to do with this, but what is that? What is the negative exponent in front of f of x?
Negative exponent in
Yeah,
front of
like,
f of x?
I seen like.
Okay, let's figure out what that means. But we'll cut off on this one here.
Yeah,